Have you ever considered how a city as grand as a kingdom of the gods could vanish in a single moment? How a people who dared to challenge the heavens were wiped from the pages of history? Join me as we uncover a story that will send a shiver down your spine and fill your soul with its haunting whispers. Our tale begins in the ancient world, around 2000 BCE, following a great flood that reshaped the earth. The prophet Noah's grandsons were tasked with repopulating the world. One of them was Joseph, son of Amiah, a striking man with sun-kissed skin and eyes that burned with a deep sense of purpose. Wearing a simple white dhoti and a coarse turban to shield him from the sun, he leaned on his wooden staff, leading his tribe across vast sun-scorched dunes. They were heading towards the fertile banks of the Saga River, with the scent of dry earth hanging heavy in the air. Under a sky painted with streaks of gold, Joseph founded a city and named it Rameshpur, which meant the city of the gods. In the gentle morning light, its baked brick homes and wide streets seemed to glow, a monument to a civilization that looked like it would last forever. Imagine the scene. Rameshpur's markets were a whirlwind of activity. Merchants in brightly colored dhotis haggled over spices and fine cloth, their voices blending with the soft jingle of anklets as women in elegant saris, adorned with shell bangles, gathered water from the communal wells. The city's advanced drainage channels glistened under the afternoon sun, and shady tamarind trees offered a cool respite from the heat, their leaves rustling in the warm breeze. But even in this paradise, a dark shadow was beginning to form. Generations passed, and a new ruler from Joseph's lineage took the throne, Arjun, a powerful emperor known for his legendary skill as a hunter. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his sun-darkened face radiating an intensity that made him both feared and admired. His eyes, a tempest of pride and ambition, flickered with a restless energy. He dressed in a flowing silk kurta of deep indigo, its edges embroidered with gold thread, and a turban studded with pearls that sparkled in the torchlight of his magnificent court. A curved scimitar with an emerald-encrusted hilt hung at his waist, a symbol of his power. His palace was a wonder to behold. Silk drapes of crimson and saffron danced in the evening air, and golden vessels shone under the light of oil lamps, casting elaborate shadows on walls adorned with gilded carvings. But Arjun's heart was filled with rebellion. He defied the divine command for humanity to spread across the earth. Instead, he ordered everyone to gather in Rameshpur there. He commanded the construction of a massive tower, an edifice designed to challenge the heavens themselves. This wasn't just a monument. It was a colossal square structure of baked bricks, its walls rising day by day, casting long, ominous shadows over the city. At night, torches lit up the construction site, their flames flickering against the starry sky. Workers, men in simple dhotis and women in cotton saris, etched strange symbols onto the stone celestial motifs, curved lines and cryptic sigils. Arjun's goal was to create a sanctuary of forbidden knowledge, a place where he could perform rituals and experiments to defy the divine order. The air grew thick with the smell of burning incense, and the distant rumble of thunder seemed to warn of a coming storm. Then came the day of divine judgment, as the workers gathered inside the torchlit halls of the nearly completed tower, their voices echoing off the stone. Chaos suddenly erupted. One man shouted to his friend, "Pass me that brick." But his friend looked back, confused, and replied in a language no one recognized. A third man cried out, "What is he saying? Has he gone mad?" In an instant, their languages fractured. Words became meaningless sounds. Each person spoke, but no one could understand. Panic swept through the crowd like a wildfire. Their shouts and cries blended into a terrifying cacophony under the flickering torchlight. Tools dropped from their hands, and the work on the tower ground to a halt. Its unfinished walls stood as a silent monument to their failed ambition. This was the first communication rift, a divine intervention that shattered Arjun's plan. Rameshpur's defiance had been met with a powerful response, but the city's rebellion was far from over. Arjun, however, was not deterred. He turned his back on the one true divine will and embraced the local deity Soma, the god of the moon, Niraj, the lord of the stars, and Agni, the master of the sun. He declared them his gods and, in his boundless arrogance, proclaimed himself a god as well. His court descended into decadence. Nobles in luxurious silk robes feasted from golden platters, while dancers in flowing veils moved to the hypnotic beat of tablas under massive bronze chandeliers. In response, the divine sent a prophet to warn him. His name was Elias, a man of quiet strength, his lean body draped in a simple white kurta and a dusty shawl. His eyes shone with a celestial light, and his wooden staff tapped softly on the palace's polished marble floors as he pleaded with Arjun to repent. But Arjun, his face a mask of pride, refused. He threw Elias into a damp, dark prison cell, where only a single sliver of moonlight could pierce the gloom through a tiny window. There in the darkness, Elias prayed, his whispered words rising like holy incense. It wasn't long before divine justice found Arjun. He was struck down not by a sword, but by a mere insect, suffering a slow and painful death. His empire crumbled as the sun set in a blood-red sky, and the mournful cries of his people echoed through the once great city. Centuries passed. Rameshpur, though humbled, rose from its ashes once more under a new emperor named Bodrek. He was a massive, imposing figure whose very presence commanded respect. He wore an ornate robe woven with gold and silver threads that shimmered in the sun, and his golden crown was studded with dazzling rubies. His court was a spectacle of unimaginable wealth, with marble pillars carved into lotus blossoms and courtiers in embroidered turbans sipping wine from jeweled goblets. Bodrek's queen came from a distant, mountainous land, and she longed for the green hills of her home. To please her, Bodrak commissioned an architectural wonder, the Hanging Gardens of Rameshpur. Imagine a terraced marvel of stone steps, overflowing with vibrant jasmines and marigolds. Fountains bubbled, birds sang, and the twilight sky cast a golden glow over this man-made paradise. The queen, dressed in an emerald green silk sari and adorned with pearl necklaces, would wander through the gardens, her eyes filled with a sad longing for her homeland. But like the emperors before him, Bodrak fell victim to his own pride. Another prophet, Jonah, was sent to warn him. Jonah was a tall man in a coarse brown cloak, his weathered face framed by a greying beard. He carried a staff carved with ancient runes, and his voice was steady and strong as he urged Bodrak to seek forgiveness. The emperor just scoffed, his mocking laughter echoing through the grand palace halls. One fateful night, Bodrak hosted a lavish feast. Nobles in silk dhotis and women in glittering saris dined under the light of 1,000 lamps. In a final act of defiance, Bodrak ordered wine to be served in the sacred vessels taken from Jonah's temple, openly mocking the divine. Suddenly, the air in the hall grew heavy. The lamp flames flickered violently. Then a ghostly hand appeared, materializing out of thin air. It wrote 3 words on the palace wall: counted, judged, divided. The entire court froze. Faces turned pale in the torchlight as a cold, terrifying fear gripped the hall. None of Bodrak's sorcerers or wise men could decipher the message. Jonah was summoned from his temple. Standing before the trembling emperor, he calmly interpreted the divine message. Counted, he said, means your days as king are numbered. Judged means you have been weighed on the scales of justice and found wanting. Divided means your kingdom will be torn apart and given to 2 other nations. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The silence was broken only by the distant howl of a desert wind. In a desperate last-ditch effort to defy his fate, Bodrak showered Jonah with honors, draping him in a purple robe and declaring him a high official. But destiny cannot be bribed. That very night, under a starless, moonless sky, a rival king named Sariadev stormed the city with his army. Their torches lit up the darkness like a river of fire. Bodrak fell in the ensuing battle, his blood staining the steps of his own palace. The city was burned to the ground. Its magnificent gardens were trampled, and its streets fell silent, save for the wails of the few survivors under a sky choked with smoke. Rameshpur, once the jewel of the ancient world, vanished completely, its ruins swallowed by the shifting sands of time. Centuries later, archaeologists in their dusty khaki vests, working under a blazing sun, uncovered fragments of the lost city. Slowly, they began to piece together the story of its immense glory and its even greater fall. The tale of Rameshpur, of Arjun and Bodrak, is a powerful lesson. It teaches us that when pride and arrogance consume a person, when humanity dares to claim the power of the divine, destruction is inevitable. We must remember to walk with humility, to respect the forces greater than ourselves. Otherwise, we too risk becoming like the great city of Rameshpur, nothing more than dust scattered on the winds of time. Thank you for watching. If this story fascinated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales from the depths of history.